Let's talk about immigration, shall we? Because according to Rishi Sunak, he reckons that migrants are, I quote, queuing up in Calais, waiting for Labour to win the election. Now, this is, of course, Tom, all because Keir Starmer says that he, on day one, is going to rip up the Rwanda plan. So, therefore, is this basically a dream to these migrants?
Well, first of all, I don't think they are queuing up, waiting for a Labour government. It makes a great Daily Telegraph headline, by the way. That's where I saw that this morning, because they were queuing up already. I mean, we are going to be heading towards something like 45,000 people crossing the Channel. We're already up to over 12,000 in the first 6 months of this year. So this is a record year already, when we, of course, the Prime Minister famously, one of his 5 pledges was that he would stop the boats. And by the way, one of the reasons why I think he called the election before most people expected, including his own party, was because I think he was never in a cat and how's chance going to get these Rwanda flights off. So coming on to Labour,
trying though, it's not his fault.
Yeah, but it's completely the wrong plan, Michelle. I mean, it's a gimmick for a start. I mean, the idea that flying 0.5% of those that come across the Channel off to Rwanda is a sufficient disincentive is just for the birds.
Well, why were people going to Ireland then, saying that actually the reason they were doing that is because of the Rwanda scheme?
Well, look, I mean, looking ahead...
I mean, you can't just dismiss that. That was happening.
Yeah, well, for some, but, we're talking about
tens of thousands. Well, it was a deterrent then, wasn't it?
Well, no, because it hasn't stopped a record-breaking year in terms of the number of people coming across the Channel.
Because they know that the Tories are about to lose the election and it's not going to happen. Yeah,
well, look, there's 3 things, in my view, that Keir Starmer's got to get a grip of on day one. First thing, of course, is to cancel the Rwanda plan. Obviously, Labour plan to put that money into this new border command. But I think the second and third point is this. We've got to get back as a country to the idea of statecraft again and actually using our soft power and our international diplomacy to do deals with other countries. And that's why... Who,
like the Taliban?
I've got no, not like the Taliban. Then
well, you can't say not like the Taliban, because
I certainly don't want us to become a pariah state. But anyway, there's a returns agreement, I believe, on the table with France. That will end this vile trade across the Atlantic. Not the Atlantic, across the Channel.
The Atlantic. We've all been at the Triple Waters this afternoon, I think.
Exactly. I think I'll be going across the Atlantic.
I think you're being frightfully optimistic. That we have talked to many countries, we have tried to encourage people not to come, and we've tried to get them to agree to take them back. It worked to an extent with Albania, but still lots of Albanians come. If the Telegraph reporters actually went over to Calais and spoke to people waiting to cross. And I will give a quote from an elderly Iraqi woman selling cigarettes. "I will not go until the day they make the right decision to destroy Rwanda. I am looking forward to a new government. If things change, I will go." And I think that really shows that Rwanda was acting as a deterrent, that people did not want to be immediately deported. They want to come here to stay in the UK. And that is the incentive, and that's what we need to get rid of. That they are already in safe countries and they should stay. The French have been given millions and millions of taxpayer money, and they still don't keep them or take them back. Those conversations have been going on for years.
But
what we've got to do is leave the ECHR, speed up our own processing, and get people out of the country. But unfortunately, if Labour win the election, they don't want to move them anywhere. What
you're quoting at me are a few anecdotes where people clearly made the decision that they won't come across until the Rwanda plan is cancelled. What I'm dealing with here is in the hard-knuckle facts, which is we're set for a record-breaking year of the numbers of people that are going to come across.
Because there's no deterrent. Because at every possible point, the Rwanda plan has been delayed and tried to be off-roaded by the people on the left that don't believe it's a safe country. It is clearly a safe country. It's a holiday destination, and we should just get on with moving people out to stop the flow coming behind them, but also to speed up the processing so that we can get rid of an awful lot more back to the safe places they've come from, mainly in the first place.
I think if the majority of British voters watching this thought that indeed was the case, then Rishi Sunak would be a lot further ahead in the polls. I think people look at the Rwanda plan, the cost of something like £165,000 per migrant to go over there, and just look at that and think there's got to be another diplomatic solution.
When you look at the Lords trying to derail it, you look at the Labour Party trying to derail it, you look at the courts trying to derail it, you look at the civil servants who wanted to take legal action because they don't think they would be acting legally to enforce it, that is why it hasn't happened sooner and more people haven't already started to go. The deterrent is in the act of removing people.
What I'm saying, there's a failure of statecraft. What I would like to see, day one of a Labour government, is Macron and Keir Starmer. Frankly, if Macron actually said, look, we're going to start negotiating a returns agreement...
It might not be Macron.
That would, well, I mean, we'll see the second stage of the elections on July the 7th. But the point is, in the end, this has got to be resolved between Britain and France. When we had the Sangatte problem back in the early 2000s, that was a treaty that was agreed between the then Home Secretary David Blunkett and his French counterpart. We have, as you know,
and led to the
French customs
and
border officials on our own territory. We're giving money at the moment to the French police in the Pas de Calais to police their own border. So I think the foundation...
They're not doing it very well, are they?
Well, the problem there is...
We see them wave them off.
And I think,
we
again,
know they're not.
British people watch these reports coming in from the beaches of Calais, and what they see are French gendarmes standing there watching the, criminals and those who are crossing the channel, coming across the channel. But in the end, the only way we're going to stop this vile trade is by smashing the criminal gangs and doing this returns agreement. That's where the focus is going to be on day one of a Labour government.
That is Fantasy Island, if you ask me. We shall see yeah, we shall probably. Unfortunately, look, I'll tell you, Nigel Farage, he has been speaking out about this today. Listen.
Behind me, you can see a white dinghy. There are 45 people on board. Behind it, you can see an escort vessel, because that's what the French do. Despite the 500 million quid we've given them, they literally, once these boats are afloat, escort them to our 12-mile line where they hand them over to Border Force. That of itself, I think, is outrageous. But the significance of this boat is that this number on this vessel take it beyond 50,000 that have come since Rishi Sunak has been Prime Minister.
You see, 50,000 people, many of whom now will be in hotels, many of whom will be in four-star hotels, some of whom now have taken voluntary removal to Rwanda. I think they get about £3,000 or £4,000 to go there. And I mean, you've got viewers of this channel be sitting there. They really struggle financially. They are sitting there going, what on earth is happening? People like Nigel Farage will say, Tom, that you need to leave the ECHR. Do you think we do?
No, absolutely not. I mean, at what point are we going to sort of start leaving every single international institution? I mean, I voted for Brexit, campaigned for Brexit. I was pleased to see the back of technocrats ruling over us in Brussels. But, you know, you do have to start to draw a line. And I think this whole right-wing agenda of pulling out of every single international treaty as somehow the magic bullet that's going to...
Do you think it's right-wing to want to control your borders?
No, it's not right-wing to want to control your borders. I do think it's right-wing to start wanting to pull out of every single international treaty. I mean, where does it stop? So we pull out of the ECHR, which, by the way, we were one of the founders of, and it protects all sorts of other human rights that are not, haven't in the past been in UK domestic law. Do we pull out of the UN Convention on Refugees? You know, where does it stop?
I think, actually, these international bodies have to face the facts that a lot of them are past their sell-by date. That
so get in there and
when we started with the ECHR, it had a very limited remit and it made complete sense. It has extended its reach time and time again, not just in geography, but in areas of law. It has redefined what human rights are completely, so that Switzerland cannot postpone its target for net zero because it's against their right to life. The Swiss had a referendum asking its government to do exactly that. They wanted a slower pathway to net zero, and the ECHR say no, it's none of their business. We are democratic countries and we should be able to govern ourselves. And this is particularly important when it comes to our borders, that time and again comes up as the number one issue that every elector is most concerned about. And we can't do enough because the ECHR stops us. We all remember the man who had a right to a family life with his cat. The ECHR is past its sell-by date.
I mean, that is a bit pathetic, isn't it, Tom?
If you are happy to be in the same company as Russia and Belarus in Europe, because we talk about pulling out of the court, actually what it means is pulling out of the Council of Europe, which is a separate institution from the European Union. Again, another institution that we were instrumental in developing after the war. Again, it's back to my point earlier about statecraft. We need grown-ups in the room who team up, for example, with other countries like Switzerland, and we tackle this. I do agree with you on judicial activism. There has been this mission creep in several international organisations, but the people, our leaders who we elect as head of states and prime ministers, need to get in a room, just like they do on lots of other issues, including climate change, and come to an international agreement about how we reform these institutions.
Of course.
Just pulling up the drawbridge, Annunciata, and saying we don't have anything more to do with it.
We're one of
not the answer.
47 countries that are members of the ECHR. Our say doesn't carry any more weight than any of theirs. And we have to look after our people first and foremost. We have an absolutely outstanding and historically replicated across the world legal system here. We do not need foreign courts to tell us what we can and cannot do.
One of my viewers is asking, Michelle, why is it not so simple as the French police slashing?
Well, some have done that, but it's not, if you like, part of their operational guidance to do it on a regular basis.
Why not?
Well, again, I think it's back to this point about we need to...
Because that would immediately... I mean, if you've got a dinghy that's been, hacked at the side, it's going to let water in, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So why isn't that basic 101?
Well, I don't know what plans Keir Starmer's got for this new border command, but I would have thought part of that plan is to have, with the French gendarmes, specialist police on the other side of the channel that can break those criminal gangs and ensure that those dinghies don't actually launch from the shores of Calais.